Today, we're looking at Robert Oster's Midnight Sapphire. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Robert Oster's Midnight Sapphire is a blue ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a fountain pen Revolution's Himalaya with their flex nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we look at the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is a chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is this blue has a lot of purple in it. That purple that starts very light, it gets much darker as it pushes up away from the water. Of course, there's some mixing blue area, but it's a very light blue that's used to make this. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And if you didn't see the D at the top of the chromatography paper, you wouldn't be able to tell that that was allowed to dry before it went there, which makes me feel there's not going to be very much resistance for this ink. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles it very well considering what we saw in the chromatography. It turns from about an extra fine to a fine. It does not blow out. It does not become illegible. It seems to be a safe ink to use in a note-taking situation if you highlight. Now, water reactivated and lifted all the darker tones, but none of the lighter tones of this ink. Some of that purple is left behind, which I was very surprised that water didn't do everything needed. Pen flush did everything that water did, and then more. We start to see some of the white of the paper coming through, which makes me say pen flush is all that you would need to clean this out of your pen. Bleach, as would be expected, completely removes it from the page. There should be no need to use the 1/3 bleach solution to get this out of your pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with a realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Robert Oster's Midnight Sapphire has a viscosity of 2.74, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper with the extra fine and medium nib. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Robert Oster's Midnight Sapphire has an average dry time of 14 seconds, making it, again, normal. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. I like the color best with the 1.1 over the others. Just do that. This is going to be one of those colors that's just not for me because it's got this like purpley undertone that I don't care for. I like purple inks, not purpley blacks, and just kind of feels that way. Nice color though. Best up here. Extra fine, slightly lighter tone. The extra fine has no feather spread, halo sheen, little bits of shading. So the is a noticeably light or darker word than the word over. Quick has some nice shading that's going on in it. It goes from very dark to lighter to very dark. Into the K, it gets a very light spots and very dark spots, so quite nice there. 9 seconds to dry. Medium has the exact same tone with no feather spread, halo sheen, and yes, shading. And the shading is better in the medium than it was with the extra fine. Quick shows it a whole lot better. Super dark, gets lighter, gets super dark again. Brown starts super dark, gets light only at the O to W joining, and then gets dark again. Fox starts light and gets dark. Jumps starts light and gets dark. Very nice here. Much better shading on the medium than the extra fine. 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows very little shading.
The scrubby of the medium shows more shading. It's not showing as much on camera. See. Come on, there we go. So, you know, it's not horrible. It's about what we got in the writing sample. The smear test says you could likely recover it if you did smear. Tomoe River. No bleeding. Yes, we get ghosting. I think the color looks better here. I think the color looks best to me on this paper. It's that cream tone paper, so that's why, you know, experiment with papers, people. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, but it looks fantastic with the 1.1. Same exact tone, but I just don't think it looks as good. I just think more of it looks nicer. The thicker lines look nicer. I don't have a double broad pen to go put this into a double broad and see what happens. The extra fine is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 14 seconds to dry. We lose the shading here. Medium, no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. It's the exact same tone as the extra fine. Again, we lost the shade. That's a product of the paper. Because it lets it sit on top for so long as it dries, for 24 seconds, the ink completely levels out, losing all of its shading. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. I'm sorry. Sorry. I had an itch, and it was right next to the microphone. The scrubby showed no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it in the smear test. You stop smearing stuff on Tomoe River if you want to recover it, because that paper doesn't allow you to recover things. Silly. I don't know. Rhodia. No bleeding. No ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have shade, a nice shade. It goes from that dark purpley blue, it's a purpley blue, to black, like in the H to T, or in the B to E. The T in Oster's nice and dark. The E in Sapphire's nice and dark. Same tones with the extra fine. No feather spread, halo sheen. Yes, we get some nice shading throughout here. It's just that it's such a dark purpley color that it then and I know they call it blue, but I am seeing these purple undertones without a doubt. And then I just flipped over and looked, and yeah, definite purple undertones. So we do get some very nice shading though with the extra fine. Quick, very dark, lighter in the center, very dark at the K. Brown starts very dark and gets lighter. Fox starts much lighter and gets much darker. Jump starts lighter and gets darker. So it's very nice, and 8 seconds to dry. Same tones with the medium. No feather spread, halo sheen, and unfortunately, no shade. It's the same tones, it's just all the darker tone. 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows us some color variation. You look far left to far right, and you can see it, and that's what we're seeing here. And it's weird because it's such a subtle color variation, and it's so constant that that's what makes it super nice. The medium shows us none. We didn't get any. In the smear test, you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. What in the world are you doing there? Poor lost pen just got found. TWSBI paper. TWSBI paper has no bleeding, almost no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and almost no real shading. Like the T is a slight bit darker, the R is a slight bit darker. And but you know, that's what we sort of get here. The extra fine is the same tone. With no feather spread, halo sheen. I don't see any shading going on here. It took 7 seconds to dry. Now the TWSBI paper is a little more absorbent, so sometimes you lose that stuff. I wrote, hold on. There we go, medium. I don't know why I put an F there. That was not an extra fine. That was a medium, and I put F for extra fine because I don't know. I'm just, I guess, that lazy. I think in my head originally when I was doing all the stuff, I was using a fine and was using an extra fine, and I don't know. I just know that those are extra fines. Those are mediums. The medium has the exact same tone as the extra fine. No feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. Now the scrubbies actually show us a little bit of color variation, looking far left to far right, and much more in the medium far left to far right when you look at it. It's just not there at all in the writing. But the smear test, you could recover it. That all being said, I do like TWSBI notebooks. I really enjoy them. You don't like yours, send it to me. Leuchtturm 1917 notebook, no bleeding, no ghosting. This color looks really nice here. Again, it's the tones of the paper. That's why we should use different tone paper and try them out. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, but the tone is really nice here. It is very pleasant. The extra fine has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have some light shading. Some areas, my dark letters is how I would put it. My K is a dark letter. My H's are often a dark letter. My X's are usually a dark letter. So I have spots I look because I know how I write and where my darker letters tend to be. So we do get some darker letters here. It took 7 seconds to dry. Now the medium is a slightly darker tone, and with that slightly darker tone we lost the lighter color to work off of. That lighter bit is where my thumb goes when I write, and that's why that looks that way. The medium has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade whatsoever. It took 9 seconds to dry. So with a walk-around notebook, this is quite nice. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't get any. In the smear test, you could recover it. 20-pound copier paper. Yep, it bleeds. It did not touch the page underneath. I think it wanted to. It was playing little brother I'm not touching you game with the page underneath. Definite amounts of show through. If you can't see that as the show through, I don't know, you can't use the back of the page. There's the problem. That's a medium at the top. That medium has spread. It has feathering all over it. It's gross. It has no halo, no sheen, no shade. Ew, stop looking at it. There we go. Now we don't have to see it. The extra fine has spread. The extra fine has controllable feathering. It feathers. It doesn't stop you from reading it. It doesn't distract the hell out of everything. But brown has a whole lot of tiny little feathering all over. It gives it that blurry kind of look. Write letters to your enemies on this paper with a medium so that they go blind. The extra fine had no halo sheen or shade. It took 1 second to dry. The scrubby showed no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. And the smear test, you can't smear this ink on this paper. So, you know, you got that going for you. That is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Robert Oster's Midnight Sapphire, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I've chosen Diamine's Apple Glory because this is a very bright green, and I just felt that the contrast over complement here would have been very nice together. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Robert Oster's Midnight Sapphire? It's a blue, but it comes across in a lot of the writing like one of those purpley black inks that I don't care for a whole lot. Now the ink does shade very well in its writing. It's just that the colors for me don't say yes, that's what I want to have, but it performs very well. And again, the shading is absolutely what I would want. Thanks for watching.